And so now we come to the first chapter of the Quenta Silmarillion, the history of the Silmarils. This chapter is titled Of the Beginning of Days. And so where I left off yesterday with the Ainulindale, well, about Quenta actually, talking about all the different Valar and the mire that went with them, and all the evil spirits that came to Middle-earth. So the Valar have now come into the world, which is all of one continent right now, surrounded by the seas. And they create these two big lamps to light the world. One is silver and one is gold. Or they basically are the sun and the moon, basically, in a way. Before the sun and the moon. There's a great lake in the midst of Middle-earth, and the Valar make a settlement there on the island of Almarin. And with the world now having light, all these beautiful things grow, and it says there's beasts that begin to walk the earth. And every time I read this, I always think that these beasts are not animals, but dinosaurs. But it just could be animals. Maybe dinosaurs don't exist in Tolkien's world. But if his world is supposed to be our world in a mythical time frame, I would assume that these are dinosaurs. And that's how I always think of it when I think about what these beasts are. And of course, Melkor decides he's going to build his own realm up in the north. And he builds the subterranean realm of Utumno, which in the Sindarin tongue or Grey Elven is Udun, or Hell. Tolkien even refers to it as Hell. So there is a Hell in Middle-earth. And it is the realm of Melkor. And so some darkness creeps into the world. He destroys the two lamps. And so the earth is broken into 3 continents, and the continent in the middle, of course, would become known as Middle-earth, because it was in between the other 2 continents, right? Which Middle-earth in Norse mythology, it comes from Norse mythology and Germanic mythology. It's in the Norse, it's Midgard, or Middenjerd in Germanic mythology. There, it's one of the 7 or 9, whatever it is, worlds that there are, and it's the one in the middle. So that's where Tolkien's Norse mythology, the influence that it had on him, creeps into these tales. And of course, so after the destruction of these 2 lamps, they go into the land. The Valar go into the land of the in the west, and they build a new realm, Valinor. And they plant 2 trees to replace the 2 lamps that were destroyed. You have Telperion, which is the tree of silver, and Laurelin, the tree of gold. And of course, he says that there's other names that they go by. And then you have the first reckoning of time, which it was, I think, 12 hours is what it says a day. I'm going to go ahead and read it. In 7 hours, the glory of each tree waxed to full and waned again to naught, and each awoke once more to life an hour before the other ceased to shine. Thus in Valinor, twice every day, there came a gentle hour of softer light when both trees were faint and their gold and silver beams were mingled. Of course, Telperion is the oldest tree, so it shines first, and then Laurelin. And each day of the Valar and Aman contained 12 hours and ended with the second mingling of the lights, in which Laurelin was waning, but Telperion was waxing. And so we now have a time period called the Bliss of Valinor. And so their days are shorter than ours. And of course, Tolkien would play around with this concept later on. If you read The Nature of Middle-earth, it has various other writings that he wrote on this topic of time. You have what is known as a Valian year, which is basically, I believe it's 10,000 of ours, or 100 of ours. I can't remember exactly, but and these are considered the Elder Days. So this is not the first age of Middle-earth. That age doesn't begin yet. So this is a time before that, before the sun and the moon. And of course, this chapter ends. Even though the Valar go into Valinor, and Middle-earth is in darkness while they're in light, not all of them forsake Middle-earth, and some still wander there. And it says even Ulmo, Lord of Waters, even to these latest days, still comes around. Of course, he's invisible; no one can see him, and he will continue to visit until the end, because until the end of time, he didn't wholly forsake the world as most of them, it seems, did at this time. And the chapter ends talking about the coming of the eventual coming of the children of Ilúvatar, elves, the elder, and men, the younger, or the Eldar, or the Quendi and the Atani. The elves, of course, their gift is that they live forever until this world ends. But men have a gift where they can give up their lives, or they can die and go beyond the world. Now, in our own world, death is a punishment, but in Tolkien's world, it's a gift. Of course, that's how the elves view death. And it is not known what happens to the elves at the end. Tolkien kind of makes it sound like their ending's very bleak, where like when the world ends, they end. So their body and their soul all just die. He just destroys them all. That's pretty bleak. But I tend to believe that that's not what will happen. Of course, again, I know this is mythology. This is not real, but it's fantasy. But hey, when you're talking about Tolkien and his works, you have to put yourself in that frame of mind that this is our history, but this is, of course, seen through the eyes of the elves. And, of course, yeah. But anyway, the elves and men will eventually come as we dive deeper into this story. And yeah, that'll be all for now. I will see you in the next one.